Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are right now in the world. My name is Sharth Chander. I'm part of the Java community, longtime member, and also part of the Java platform group here at Oracle. It's been a long journey, and I know we all want to connect and communicate and collaborate face-to-face and in person. And that time will come, but we also want to ensure we're adapting to the ever-changing world we're living in. And here at Oracle, part of that adaptation is the introduction of a new online event series called Oracle Developer Live. We're really proud to bring this forward to all of you to share our experiences, our knowledge, and enrich your life in terms of your application development across a myriad of technologies that Oracle presents to you. Now, part of this journey started a couple of weeks ago. We held an Oracle Developer Live Day focused on database. This database edition had the sessions and keynotes recorded. You still have the opportunity to go and watch all of this content on demand. Even if you saw it for the first time, there may have been things you want to rehear, or if you missed it entirely, you can start from the beginning. But we want to encourage you to enrich that life experience with all things Oracle database and fulfill that knowledge that you're seeking in this specific area. We also have 2 more editions of Oracle Developer Live scheduled for you. The next one after today is focused on MySQL. And then we also have an edition focused on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. You can already start registering for MySQL, and we'll have details on how to register for the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Day very shortly. Feel free to visit this website and take part for that early registration while you can. But today is all about Java, and what a day to celebrate. This year in 2020, we celebrate 25 years of Java, and what a milestone that is. Whether you've been a developer using Java for a month, a year, maybe 5 years, or 25 years like myself, it's such an enriching experience. Java has moved us. It's moved businesses and users and developers towards greater innovation. It's moved physically commerce around the world, and it's moved developers in terms of their passion. Just think about the sheer number of applications around the world that are powered by Java because we are moved by this technology. Whether it's aerospace or space exploration or genome and science or things like e-commerce and finance, Java touches everything that we do and every part of our living day. But many times we don't even realize how impactful it is in the lives we live. And because of that, we are all moved by Java. And for this year, to celebrate 25 years, we've launched the Our World Moved by Java campaign. Obviously, this campaign kicked off on May 20th, and you can still follow along by going to oracle.com/movedbyjava. Here, we're looking to extend this campaign for at least a calendar year, if not longer. We want to be able to share our journey and your journey. Already, we have videos of members of the Java ecosystem in terms of how they've been moved personally, how it's shaped their career, and how it shaped their business. We also have stories from those of us here at Oracle who've been working on Java for many years in terms of why we've made certain decisions, what technology changes we've adapted to, and how we're looking to move Java forward for the next 25 years. So we encourage you to come, experience this Moved By campaign, and enjoy the journey with us. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of you online and sharing that with your experiences as well. Now, it's not just about 25 years of what's happened. It's about what 25 years looking forward is all about. And we all know that experience about where Java starts. It all happens at the Open Jdk Project. We invest all of our time here, and a lot of times people ask us, where does that magic happen? Well, it is at the Open Jdk Project, but I'll say this. There is no real magic. There's no cards up our sleeves. There's nothing hidden. We do all of our development transparently in the open for you to see. There's nothing hidden here. You as developers can know what's happening by joining the Open Jdk Project. You can see code check-ins. You can see the conversations that are happening in terms of decision-making as far as what we're doing or why we're not doing something. To be clear, So many applications are running Java, and we want to be very thoughtful for the innovation we introduce. And so you can see all of that thoughtful decision making here at OpenJDK. And if you're feeling lucky and interested, you can also join the project and help contribute and participate and share your experiences and your input to help shape that future as well. So we encourage you to come and check out openjdk.java.net and be part of that journey for the next 25 years and beyond. As part of this, while we offer Java for free for all users, we also know many of you are at businesses that demand enterprise-level support. And so just over a year ago, we introduced Oracle Java SE subscription. This program affords you and your business an approachable and a predictable model to get enterprise-level support from the leaders from Oracle that are building Java forward for you today. You get 24-hour support in multiple languages, and you have a pricing model that reduces your investment to reduce that friction. And it's important because you have the flexibility to use Java as it demands in terms of your business. So we offer this to you. It is flexible, price lists are public, and we encourage those that need this level of enterprise support to please check out our subscription program. Now, along the way, we also want to get your feedback. Whether you're using Java for free or using it in your business, we want to make sure we're making the right decisions for you in the future. So we want to hear about your stories. How is Java working in terms of your enterprise and in your community or in the world you live in the types of applications that you're targeting, in types of the business models you're approaching? Have we missed something? Is there something we need to do more for you? So we've set up this program to allow you to give us feedback. And for your time, we also are happy to say that we're able to offer you a gift card for your participation. But besides that, your participation and your feedback is so important to us. It allows us to make the right decisions for you in the future, and by ensuring that we have a connection with you as we continue that journey. And besides just using the technology, we want to also make sure your learning increases as well. My father always used to tell me when I was growing up, son, you know less than you know. And it took me a while to understand what he meant by that. But it's very clear, every day of our lives, we can learn something new. And it's no different in the world of programming, especially in Java. No matter how experted you are, there's still something new to learn. And to increase your adaptability and to increase your career in Java, we've now introduced this Learning Explorer program through Oracle University. While we have a certification program, we also want to increase and make it better for you with modules that are available to you on demand for you to explore and test out. What we want to do is make you make your application development as strong as possible, that it only comes from your knowledge and use of Java. So check out the Explorer program, use that as a stepping stone towards the certification program, and do it at your own pace. And this is a great way for also you to stand out to other recruiters and other businesses. By completing the Explorer program, you'll be able to obtain a badge and differentiate yourself against the marketplace of other developers. And of course, learning also continues in terms of what you read. Many of you are already longtime subscribers of the free Java Magazine publication, which is now available online. But we also encourage the new set of developers that may not be familiar with this to also subscribe to this. This is a true technical publication. It's by developers for developers. And what does that mean? That means you can contribute to this. We're always looking for new articles and new contributors to share your knowledge, new use cases, best practices, things that are happening in your industry that might be applicable to your peers. And it's a great way for you to make connections with other developers and in terms of their knowledge, in terms of what they're sharing. So please check out Java Magazine. If you're interested, we're always, like I said, looking for additional contributors. And we're already ready for new articles for the next set of releases that are out there. And the journey doesn't just stop with sharing and participating in OpenJDK or taking advantage of our subscription program, or for that matter, our learning programs through Oracle University. We also want to stay personally connected with you. This has always been a central point of us here in the Java team. It's not standing behind just the Java name, but knowing that there are people and faces that are building this technology, people that want to connect with you, people that want to share information with you. Many of the speakers today are accessible and reachable on social. You can follow them on Twitter. They are willing to have conversations with you on various topics. So I encourage all of you, maybe this is a time to take a screenshot here, but all of the speakers here are open to connecting with you and staying connected on social. So I look forward to it. You're welcome to follow me and follow all of my peers that will be presenting today. Now, what is today's journey in terms of content? Obviously, we're going to talk about Java from the technical depth and breadth that Java brings to all of you. We're going to talk about platform development in terms of improvements we've made. We're going to talk about simplifying the Java language to make it more approachable to you. We also want to talk about new security advances and cryptography that will improve the security performance and footprint of your application. But beyond that, we also have teams at Oracle that are looking at other next generation areas that are tangential to Java. Our enterprise Java team is making investments in the Verrazano program, and this is all about enterprise cloud platform delivery of components that are open source. This is obviously a new area for developers, and it's a new area for us in Oracle to connect with you in the cloud native space. Our teams here at Oracle Labs are also going to present on Graal VM. While many of you might be familiar with Graal VM, many of you are also doing polyglot development that requires faster startup time. So we have sessions and dedicated labs that focus on this as well. So if you're immersed in the world of multiple application development using multiple languages, where startup time is mission critical, I ask for you to take advantage of the Graal VM session, as well as the hands-on lab that we have available for you today. Now, a little bit of housekeeping for you. During the course of today's keynote and sessions, you'll have the opportunity to interact with all of our speakers. And we encourage you to ask questions. You'll notice a Q&A icon just at the bottom of the screen. Please use that. Our speakers are ready to answer your questions and engage with you during the course of today. And don't think there isn't any question that can't be asked. We want to be able to understand what is happening in your space and in your environment, in your application. And so it might be common to all of us. So have the courage, ask your question. And if you don't have the opportunity to ask today, again, please connect with us online. We want to extend this conversation just even beyond today. So take screenshots and post them on social. You can follow this entire event series using the hashtag Oracle Dev Live, and you can extend your questions there as well. Now, I'm sure there's a question all of you are having. If I miss something, what do I do? Where do I go for that replay? Well, our keynotes and sessions are all being recorded, and they will be available to all of you on demand. So if there's something important that you missed that you want to hear again, you'll have that opportunity. But more importantly, maybe you have some colleagues that weren't able to watch today. Maybe you can share those on-demand recordings with them to extend that learning experience. Because the Java community isn't just one person and one idea. It's a collection of ideas, and we want to share that with everyone. So in the same spirit that we're sharing today with you, we look forward to you extending this message to all of your peers as well. So sit back, relax, the keynote's about to start, and I'll be back with you shortly, a little bit later in today's agenda. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for that introduction, Sharat. Welcome everyone online watching today's Java event. I'm George Saab, and I run the Java team at Oracle that develops and evolves Java. Really excited to be here today and connect with all of you.
And my name is Chad Arimura, and I run the developer relations team for the Java Platform Group. Today, we're of course going to talk about Java 15, but we're also going to talk about many of the things that we've done to keep Java relevant for the past 25 years and what we plan to do to keep it relevant for the next quarter century.
As Sharat mentioned, 2020 is a memorable year for Java as we celebrate its 25th anniversary. Right from the start, Java grew swiftly in popularity and expanded its reach to many different areas of software development. Today, Java continues to evolve with important language features building on the momentum of earlier steps forward, such as generics in Java 5, lambdas in Java 8, and modules in Java 9, but with a constant underlying focus on improving performance, stability, and security of the platform.
And I'd like to add one statistic to this slide. I took the list of the Fortune 100 companies, that's the 100 largest companies in the United States, and I went to every single one of their job boards. I found that 98 of them are hiring Java developers. How's that for job security by choosing the #1 language in the world?
We now work on several projects in the Open JDK community, transparently and in the open. Among the many active projects, the ones listed here are where we invest a lot of our time and energy. And in today's sessions, you'll hear how some of the innovation behind these projects are being delivered to you. Each one tries to address a known pain point or an area of opportunity for improvement that helps Java developers address new challenges in an industry known for constant change. Whether leveraging improvements in hardware or emerging ideas of software architecture, Java stays relevant and protects your investment. These projects are not set up to deliver one large, massive feature in a few years' time, but instead to produce smaller, incremental improvements towards their end goal.
And it's a really important point that you made, George, that these projects help Java address many of the major evolutions happening in modern software development. Everything from taking advantage of modern hardware, as you mentioned, to improving concurrency for modern workloads, to accelerating startup time for microservices and serverless workloads, and of course, addressing the growing demand for AI and ML. Don't forget, you can get all of the information you need to, including jumping into the conversation at openjdk.java.net, join the mailing list to see the ongoing development, as well as inside.java for a content aggregator of all of these projects.
While we continue to modernize and innovate on Java language and platform improvements, how will we ensure that Java continues to offer value over the next 25 years and beyond? Well, we do this by staying true to the virtues that have made Java successful for so long. As we strategize on technical enhancements and build new features, we lean in and embrace what has given Java value.
And as a former co-founder and CEO of my own company for 8 years, I can attest to the importance of having a North Star to guide everything that you do. These virtues are Java's North Star, and they will ensure that we stay on course for the next 25 years.
Now more than ever, developers have choices based on their needs. We offer Java under 2 licenses for you to choose from.
And it's all about reducing friction for developer adoption. Those that prefer an open source license can choose OpenJDK at jdk.java.net. And for those that need a commercial license, you can get it at oracle.com/Java downloads.
So as we announced in 2017, we're now shipping Java with a faster, more predictable 6-month release cadence, taking the guessing out of when users can expect us to deliver Java to them. Recent data has shown more and more adoption of Java 11, and as we near the downhill slope towards the next long-term support release in Java 17, more and more developers are looking at 15 as a stepping stone that will put them ahead of the curve.
And it's really hard to understate just the positive impact that this release cadence has had on the ecosystem. Everywhere from development team efficiencies to the team that's actually building Java, to the faster cadence of innovation in the hands of end user developers, and approachable increments of change, along with thoughtfully breaking up much larger features into smaller, consumable, and approachable changes over time.
That's exactly right, Chad. With Java's 6-month feature release model, developers get faster access to new features and the ability to get insight and give feedback into where Java is headed. Now, developers can take advantage of incremental enhancements along with thousands of performance, stability, and security updates that we ship in every new feature release.
And as you mentioned, gone are the days of the large disruptive releases and upgrades. we're actually hearing that quite a bit of the market is able to take the latest version, work it into their CI/CD systems so that they're testing and developing on the latest version of Java to ensure that their applications run smoothly. And of course, today, like clockwork, we have announced and released Java 15. Along with thousands of performance, stability, and security enhancements, JDK 15 delivers 14 JDK enhancement proposals. You'll hear about each of these in detail from our Senior Director of Product Management, Aurelio Ribeiro Garcia, in a bit.
There are many things to get excited about in Java 15, and in particular, ZGC. So ZGC moves out of the experimental phase and is now a GA feature in JDK 15. For applications with large heaps, but a need to keep pause times low and above all predictable, this is a huge step forward.
And as we do with each release, we'd like to send out a heartfelt thank you to each of the contributors that make Java happen, both large and small. Even before today's release, though, 15, we've been hard at work on Java 16. You can find early access builds of Java 16 at jdk.java.net/16 to begin testing and planning today.
So far, there are 4 targeted JEPs, and there'll probably be a few more coming. So we welcome your feedback, and again, encourage you to start downloading the early access builds to share your input.
And as you may have noticed, 2 of those JEPs are actually about a migration of the mainline source code to Git and GitHub. We're proud and excited that the development is now happening on Git and GitHub, and this ensures that Java remains accessible for developers for many years to come around the globe.
And while the Java team at Oracle focuses on ensuring the core platform and language continue to offer value to developers, we're also encouraged by efforts in Oracle Labs, where Java developers can get modern libraries addressing machine learning. Drawing on some of the virtues that have made Java so successful, the Labs group is focusing its efforts in Tribuo to address productivity, approachability, and interoperability in the machine learning space.
And while we continue to drive leadership from a technical perspective, we think it's very important to continue to invest in the ecosystem because a healthy and vibrant community is really what makes Java, Java.
All of these programs are meaningful, but one I'd like to highlight is the OpenJDK project itself. We encourage you to visit openjdk.java.net. We do all of our development there out in the open. You have the opportunity to see code check-ins, conversations on the mailing lists, and ultimately the decisions that are made as features evolve. And you can also join the OpenJDK project. You have multiple levels in terms of how to get involved.
And not only are we investing in existing programs, but we're also bringing new programs to life. If you joined us back in May for that event, you were part of an announcement where we talked about Inside.java, which I've mentioned before, a content aggregator of content produced by the Java team at Oracle that builds Java. It's easy to get to. Just simply visit inside.java in your browser. And as part of this evolution of Inside Java, we're thrilled to announce today the launch of the Inside Java podcast, a podcast dedicated to everything Java, again, brought to you directly from the team that builds Java at Oracle. We already have 3 episodes produced. One of them covers JDK 15 with Michael Vichstedt, our Director of JVM Engineering. And I think I see your name on the list here, George.
Yeah, looking forward to that. That should be a lot of fun, Chad.
Well, if you listen to the episode, you might learn why there's an S on the end of George's name. I never knew until that episode. You can find the podcast in your favorite podcast directory by simply searching for Inside Java, or go to inside.java/podcast to get the RSS feed directly.
Last 25 years have been amazing for Java, and we're looking forward to the next 25 years. With the ongoing innovation, investment in the ecosystem, and thoughtful stewardship from Oracle, developers can expect Java to offer value for many years to come.
And I'd like to personally extend my thanks to the community and the ecosystem that have welcomed me as I've been part of it for the last year. My team and I are looking forward to driving and moving Java forward together. And now I'd like to hand it off to Aurelio to go into more detail about Java 15.
Thank you. Let me tell you a little bit about what is available now in the just released Jdk 15. In keeping up with the 6-month release schedule, today we're making Jdk 15 available to users. Along with thousands of performance, stability, and security updates, Jdk 15 delivers 14 JDK enhancement proposals. We have, as usual, a mix of enhancements to the language, the libraries, and the JVM, as well as some housekeeping. I will give you a quick overview of these JEPs now. If you would like to learn more about any of them, the best source of information is usually the text of the JEP itself in OpenJDK. There are many more smaller changes that you can read about in the release documentation. JEP 361 aims to deliver a platform-independent implementation of the EDSA for the Sun EC provider that will perform as good as the existing native C implementation. EDSA was designed to be resistant to commonly used side channel attack vectors, such as those that exploit timing and speculative execution from branching. EDSA timing is the same for all secrets, and it does not have branch operations that depend on secret data. Like other signature schemes, DSA uses a secret value unique to each signature. In DSA, this secret value is generated randomly. So if the random generator is broken and predictable, the signature can leak the private key. DSA uses a hash of a part of the private key and the message, so no random number generator is used to make signatures, which avoids this risk. The team that developed DSA designed it so that with 64-bit secrets, it provides attack resistance comparable to a quality 128-bit symmetric cipher. This JEP does not propose the integration of DSA with TLS 1.3. That work will be completed in a follow-up enhancement. With Jdk 15, we add text blocks to the Java SE standards. Text blocks were previewed in Jdk 13 and 14. Feedback from Jdk 14 suggested that text blocks was ready without further changes. Text blocks are multi-line string literals that can be represented in code without having to deal with most escape sequence and clunky concatenations. It's easier to understand if you see an example. Imagine you want to assign some HTML into a string in your program. Without text blocks, we had to process strings using newline escapes and concatenating multiple strings. Manually processing the strings is error-prone, and the resulting code is hard to read. This could be even worse if the string happened to contain a few double quotes. We would need to escape them. Now, wouldn't it be nice if we could just cut and paste text unmodified right into the editor? Here we see the result of replacing the traditional string literal with a text block. It uses the same set of escape sequences. It just uses a different delimiter, 3 double quotes, and can span multiple lines. Moving to a multi-line leaves us with a dilemma. We normally want to indent the text block along with our code, but we probably don't want that incidental indentation to show up in the string. We use heuristics to determine which indentation is part of the string and which is accidental, and we trim off the accidental indentation. In this example, the gray dots indicate which left indentation was deemed accidental. The algorithm will also trim spaces to the right of the last non-white character in each line. Text blocks was first previewed in Jdk 13. Thanks to the feedback we received then, 2 new escape sequences were added. A backslash followed by a line terminator explicitly suppresses the new line character. This is useful if you wanted to use multi-line strings for improving readability of your code, but you meant to represent a long string. We also added a new escape sequence for dealing with trailing and white spaces. Using \s, you can let the compiler know that you want some of those trailing spaces preserved. In this example, we want to have 3 lines exactly 5 characters long. So we use \s on the shorter ones to preserve some extra spaces. JDK 11 introduced C or set garbage collector as an experimental feature for Linux. With JDK 14, we added CGC, still as experimental, to Windows and Mac. With JDK 15, CGC is no longer experimental. It is now fully supported and no longer requires the unlock experimental VM options flag. CGC was designed to achieve extremely small garbage collection pauses in the single-digit millisecond range, even when operating on massive heaps. Having been used in the real world for a few years now, it is ready to move to the spotlight. To get an idea of how much shorter the garbage collection pause times are in CGC when compared to earlier garbage collectors, we compared the pause times using the same benchmark of Parallel, G1, and Z. This chart shows the pause time distributions for average, percentile, and max values. Although the CGC garbage collections are very small, they're not zero. They're just so much smaller than those of the other two garbage collectors that they appear to be. If we look more closely, we get to see them. In this test, while Parallel and G1 had average pause times of hundreds of milliseconds, the average pause time for CGC is under a millisecond, and the max pause time under 2 milliseconds. There is, of course, a trade-off. On many workloads, you see a few percentage points of throughput benefit for G1 over C. Also, for very small heaps, like a few hundred megabytes, G1 is also likely to do better. So unfortunately, we don't yet have a one-size-fits-all garbage collector, but we will continue working on it. JDK 15 also removes the experimental flag from the Shenandoah garbage collector. As you would expect, it's not all about bringing new features forward. It's also about making sure that previous features and libraries are kept current. With JDK 15, we revamped Datagram Socket Api. The previous implementation dates back to JDK 11, and it's a mix of Java and C code that it's hard to maintain. Multicast socket is particularly problematic since it dates back to when IPv6 was still being developed. The implementation also has concurrency issues that required an overhaul to address properly. The new implementation is simpler, easier to maintain, and will be easy to adapt with virtual threads currently being explored in Project Loom. Some small differences listed in the JEP exist. These differences might be observable in corner case situations, but should be transparent to the vast majority of API users. Still, to avoid introducing regressions, we retain the legacy implementation for the time being and allow users to revert back to it through a system property. CL classes and interfaces restrict which other classes or interfaces may extend or implement them. In Java, a class hierarchy enables the reuse of code via inheritance. However, the purpose of a class hierarchy is not always to reuse code. Sometimes, its purpose is to model the various possibilities that exist in a domain, like the kinds of shapes supported by a graphic library. When the class hierarchy is used this way, restricting the set of subclasses can streamline the modeling. Java developers are familiar with the idea of restricting the set of subclasses because it often comes up in API design. The language provides limited tools in this area. Either make a class final, so it has 0 subclasses, or make a class or its constructor package private, so it can only have subclasses in the same package. However, the package private approach is useless when the goal is modeling alternatives, since user code cannot access the key abstraction, the superclass, in order to switch over it. It is not always possible to allow users access to the superclass. It's not possible to allow users to have access to the superclass without also allowing them to extend it. What we really wanted was a superclass to be widely accessible, but not widely extensible, so sealed classes. In JDK 15, this is a preview feature. Preview features are complete, fully specified, and fully implemented. These are not betas for a feature. They have the same high level of quality as any other feature, but they are not final. You should not rely on them for programs that need to remain unchanged for more than the 6 months until the next version. Preview features must be enabled using a command line option at compile time, and they must also be enabled at runtime, or you will get an error. Even though it's not mandatory, it is now expected that most language features will go through at least one release in preview before being added. So far, we have not had more than 2 previews for any language feature, but there is no set number of previews. Let's see an example. A class is sealed by applying the sealed modifier to the declaration. Then, after any extends and implements clauses, the permits clause specifies the classes that are permitted to extend the sealed class. A sealed class imposes 3 constraints on its permitted subclasses. The sealed class and its permitted subclasses must belong to the same module, or, if declared in an unnamed module, to the same package. Every permitted subclass must directly extend the sealed class, and every permitted subclass must choose a modifier to describe how it continues the sealing initiated by the superclass. It could be final and allow no more subclassing. It could in turn be sealed, which means it will have its own set of permitted subclasses. Or it could be non-sealed. A sealed class cannot prevent its permitted subclasses from doing this. One and only one of the modifiers, final, sealed, or non-sealed, must be used by each permitted subclass. Java lang class will get 2 new methods so that code using reflection will be able to determine if a class or interface is sealed, and if so, to get a list of the permitted subclasses. Pattern matching for instance of is back for a second preview. It allows us to express the conditional extractions of components from objects in a more concise and safer manner. In case you're wondering, there are no changes from the first preview. Let's see a pattern matching example. We've all seen or written code like this. We have an object which could hold different types, and we want to do something if it happens to be a particular type. In this apparently simple statement, we have 3 things going on. First, we have to test to see if the object is a string. If it is a string, we have to declare a new string variable so that we can cast the object. And we have to cast the object into the new variable so we can treat it like a string. Using pattern matching, we can reduce the code into a single line that does all of those 3 things. The variable is only created if the object is a string. If so, the object is automatically casted into the variable, and the variable is in scope only inside the brackets of the if statement. If there is an else part of the conditional, the new variable is not in scope in the else part. Even with more advanced conditionals, the scope of the variable behaves as you would expect. For example, when using and in a conditional, since the second part of the statement is only evaluated if the first part is true, S is in scope for the second part of the condition and in the brackets for that branch. If we were using or, however, the second part of the expression would only be evaluated if the first part is false. Since the first part is false, the variable S is not in scope after the or and cannot be used in the second part of the conditional or inside the brackets. One of the features that received most attention on JDK 14 was the preview of the record types. JDK 15 brings records back for a second preview with a few refinements introduced in response to the feedback from the first preview. Records save developers the need to deal with some of the boilerplate one has to create when attempting to use a class which simply aggregates immutable data. Take, for example, a simple class to express a coordinate. We just want to pass around an immutable pair of integers, x and y. But we're going to need a constructor to set the values. And we want all classes to implement an equals. And let's not forget about the hash code. We also would like to see the values from the class if we use toString. And we want to be able to access those values. So we need methods to read them. Note that the accessors are not using the traditional getX and getY, but just the name of the fields. All of this extra code could be auto-generated by your IDE. So writing it is not a big deal. But that doesn't help us when trying to read the code and understanding what this class is for. We will have to review all of the auto-generated code before we can be sure this is a plain vanilla data class and there is nothing but ceremony behind those methods. What if we could let Java handle all of these for us. Instead of saying class, we say record. And the compiler can make sure that our record type gets all of those required methods without us having to include them in our code. If for some reason, some of those methods weren't just boilerplate, let's say you need a constructor so you can do some validation in the incoming data, well, you just need to implement the constructor, and the compiler will provide the other ones. This way, whatever is written is indeed required. And when reading the code, you only see things that are necessary, no boilerplate. In some future JDK release, we plan to make it so that you can use pattern matching on records. This second preview adds local records. A program that produces and consumes records is likely to deal with many intermediate values that are themselves simple groups of variables. It will often be convenient to declare records to model those intermediate values. One option is to declare helper records that are static and nested, much as many programs declare helper classes today. A more convenient option is to declare a record inside a method, close to the code that manipulates the variables. This JEP proposes local records, akin to the traditional construct of local classes. In this example, the aggregation of a merchant and a monthly sales figure is modeled with a local record, merchant sales. Using this record improves the readability of the stream operations. Java didn't allow local enums and local interfaces either because of concerns over their semantics. Since local records resolve those concerns, this JEP also introduces local enums and local interfaces. Many language implementations built on the JVM rely upon dynamic class generation. For example, Javac does not translate a Lambda expression into a dedicated class file at compile time, but rather emits bytecode that dynamically generates and instantiates a class at runtime when needed. Language implementers usually intend for a dynamically generated class to be logically part of the implementation of a statically generated class. Dynamically generated classes would ideally be non-discoverable. Additionally, dynamically generated classes may only be needed for a limited time, so retaining them for a lifetime of the statically generated class might unnecessarily increase the memory footprint. The current standard APIs do not differentiate whether the bytecode of the class were generated dynamically or statically. Therefore, the class may be more discoverable or have a longer lifecycle than needed. With hidden classes, we improve the efficiency when generating classes dynamically of all language implementations built on the JVM. Now, I don't expect most developers will use hidden classes directly. This is meant more for developers of frameworks. So since we all use frameworks, I expect we will all benefit from these stuff. Foreign Memory Access API. This enhancement is back for a second release in an incubator module. It is the first one from Project Panama. Once it is finalized, it will provide a valid alternative for Java programs that need to access memory that is not in the Java heap. Up to now, most developers use Java NIO byte buffer and some miscan safe to reach foreign memory. This new API aims to offer a safer alternative with similar performance. Several refinements listed in the JEP have been added to this second incubator. Incubator modules serve a similar function to that of preview features. They allow us to gather real-world feedback on an API or tool while signaling that it should not yet be considered finalized. Incubator modules are used for tools and libraries, since those can be clearly constrained with the module system. Preview is used for language and VM features, which could not be neatly contained within a module. JEPs not only introduce new functionality, we also use JEPs to perform essential maintenance skipping tasks like removing no longer current capabilities and ports. To avoid surprising anyone, the flow is to first mark a feature as deprecated, and after a prudent time, which depends on how easy it is to migrate to an alternative and how widespread is the use of the feature, we can remove it. With Jdk 15, we disable bias locking and deprecate all related command line options. Bias locking is an optimization technique used in the hotspot virtual machine to reduce the overhead of uncontended locking. Biasing the locks historically led to performance improvements over regular locking techniques. The performance gains seen in the past are far less evident today. The cost of executing atomic instructions has decreased on modern processors. Bias locking introduced a lot of complex code. This complexity is an impediment to making significant design changes with the synchronization subsystem. By disabling locking by default, bias locking by default, while leaving the option of re-enabling it in the hands of the developer, we hope to determine if it would be reasonable to remove it in a future release. Rmi activation is an obsolete part of Rmi that has been optional since Java 8. This JEP does not propose deprecating any other part of Rmi. There is a small and decreasing use of Rmi activation. There is no evidence of any new applications being written to use Rmi activation, and there is evidence that very few existing applications use Rmi activation. A search of various open source code bases has revealed barely any mention of any of the activation-related APIs. No externally generated bug reports on Rmi activation have been received for several years. Maintaining Rmi activation as part of the Java platform requires continuing maintenance costs. Rmi activation can be removed without affecting the rest of Rmi. Removal of Rmi activation does not reduce Java's value to developers, but it does decrease the JDK's long-term maintenance cost. Finally, as you would expect, we also have removals of features that were marked as deprecated for removal in earlier releases. In this case, we're removing the NASForm JavaScript engine, which was deprecated with JDK 11. We will also remove from future JDK versions the source code and build support for Solaris Spark, Solaris x64, and Linux Spark ports. The source code for these features remains available in OpenJDK. Those are the major changes in JDK 15. I invite you to use JDK 15, available as a GA release as of today, and let us know how it worked for you. Much more detailed information about these features is available in the OpenJDK site. You can also get early access builds for JDK 16. Thank you.
I said I'd be back. Welcome back, everyone. I'm sure you enjoyed that keynote, so I want to thank our keynote speakers. It was also great to see everyone who was online listening to the keynote. So all those members in the Java user groups around the world that were participating, thank you. We're looking forward to seeing all of you in person, especially all of my colleagues at the Netherlands Java user group. I wore this in honor of you today. It's great that you always make a home and place for everyone here at Oracle, and we're looking forward to connecting with you. And thank you for sending your members to today's event. So as we get started with the rest of our day, let's just keep in mind about what we heard in the keynote. So Java 15, it's available today, as we've been doing with every release. As we announced a couple of years ago, we have our 6-month release cadence. It comes out every March and every September. This September is Java 15. We have 14 key Java enhancement proposals that are part of this. We ask you to go and explore each of these features, as you heard in the keynote, to do a little bit of a further double-click dive beyond the technical demonstration that you got. You can start downloading today. And also keep in mind, Java 16 early access builds are already available. So as you put Java 15 into production, you can already take advantage of Java 16 early access builds and start doing testing by putting that in your CI and CD pipelines. So a very good thing that you can take advantage of as of today. Now, as we move forward in today's agenda, you just finished hearing the keynote. And so as we start the sessions, you're going to log into the next set of sessions. So as you log out of this keynote, you will click the Join At button for the session that you are most interested in watching. Now, know this, as you're sitting there and listening to a session, I understand how this sometimes goes. Our mind may want to go and hear something else that is also of equal interest. You do have that option. You're not forced to just sit in one session. You may have heard the information that met your needs, and you're more than welcome to go and then hear the other session that's running in parallel. So by clicking the Join At button, you can start the session that is of most interest to you. And if you want to move over to what's running in parallel, you can log out and then log back into the next session by clicking the Join At button for that session that is happening in that time slot. And that's the model you can follow during the course of today. Go into the session of your choice in the time slot that it starts. If you feel like migrating, you have that ability to go back and forth. And we are more than happy for you to go back and forth between these sessions as well. Also, the next set of content is our first set of sessions, and the first one is Java Language Futures by Gavin Biermann. He's going to go into a lot of the areas that was covered in the keynote, but go into a bit of a deeper dive. Now, this is a session that we often do during the course of every calendar year, where we talk about Java language features and updates that we've made. Obviously, as we said at the start of today, we want to make Java more approachable to all of you. So we're making enhancements in the language to make it more approachable by simplifying the language syntax, by reducing some of the boilerplate and the verbosity in the language. And Gavin's going to cover some of that in the course of his session, along with other areas in the language where we're making continual incremental improvements. Also, as I mentioned in the beginning, we also have the Verrazano project. Obviously, enterprise container investments is important. Having a container platform is important. And the Verrazano project is one of those areas. And so the hybrid cloud application session that is being delivered by Mark Nelson and David Cabellis, two of my colleagues in the Enterprise Java team, will be talking about how Enterprise Java is making that leap into the microservices space, as well as the container space. So you have the option of 2 sessions to start your day today. And we look forward to you making the choice of the session that is most interesting to you. And of course, again, to reinforce, we are recording these sessions. These will be made available on demand. And again, you can follow all of the conversations that's happening on social by going to the Oracle Dev Live hashtag on Twitter. I look forward to seeing you there and seeing all of you during the course of the sessions today. Take care.